So thank you all for being here today and listening. And so the title of this talk today is a little bit more esoteric than usual. I've titled it Sacred Spaces of Heart and Home and Field. And quite often I prefer, if you know my material and you're familiar with my classes, I like to provide a strategy or a plan, 1, 2, 3 steps, because quite often that's how we process information. This one is a little bit more esoteric. It's a little bit more feeling oriented because it relates to some questions that I've had recently. And I thought it would be valuable for us all to hear. It's been valuable for me to start processing as I've been considering what is sacred space and where is it and where is it going? And are we missing out on some benefits of enjoying sacred space? To most of us, the word sacred is one of the words, it's almost so big or abstract that when we say it, we almost lose our attention immediately. Oh, that's honorific, or that's sacred, that's holy. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean to you and I? We're humans. What do you mean sacred? And so I think for a lot of us, what we mean when we say sacred is to honor something or respect something. We view something as holy, as spiritual, as special, and connected to divine in some way. And so a lot of times in these modern times, we don't really think that way. We think of, how does it affect me? How does this affect me? What's the bottom line? But I'm thinking recently that when we lose a sense of the sacred, we're losing something very valuable. So I've combined a variety of little examples this morning for you. And so as I convey them, they're kind of chronological, beginning with my childhood. And I'd like you to think of them along maybe with some of the path that you've experienced in your life, because I think few people really have it explained to them what is sacred, what is divine. We just kind of experience it without really thinking about it. And I know that I experienced a sense of the divine and the sacred when I was a kid, but I didn't really know it. I was one of those church nerds that in school, when the teacher asked, what to the whole class, what's your favorite time of the week? I was the only one out of 35 kids who said, when I go to church. Nobody said that, but I didn't know why. And there I was with great music and family and friends, but I didn't know why that was my favorite time of the week. Now, I did very consciously feel very spiritual laying in the field behind my parents' house. In California in the springtime, we get these tall mustard plants that are green and blooming yellow and gold in the springtime. And I would lay down and I could see these amazing colors. I felt so close to God and Spirit in that moment. So close. But I didn't understand how that related to what the world would call spiritual. I didn't understand that. I never really asked that question. Fast forward to when I was 16, Spirit had shown up in a variety of ways. And at 16, I manifested a construction job and got a ticket to go to see relatives in Maine. And when I went to Maine, I was the only one from my family there at my relative's house, and being 16 years old. And when it came to the weekend, when I would normally love to go to church, my relatives there said, oh, we're so sorry, we don't have a church in your area, in this area of your denomination, but you can go down to the rocks at the harbor. They lived on the harbor in Maine. You can go down on the rocks and have your spiritual time there. And that was the first time I thought, spiritual time sitting on a rock? How could that be? There's no family, there's no friends, there's no organ or choir. And I really did think about it. And as I sat there on the rocks in this beautiful space with the ocean, coming in and out, I really did ponder, what is this like now, me as a 16-year-old, possibly communing with the infinite, communing with God, sitting on a rock. And as metaphysicians that most of you are, and spiritualists as you are, maybe you've worked this all out and got it all very clear in your mind that, it's our soul, it's our heart that communes and connects with God, and that's all we need. Most of us were raised with a very dramatic example of Moses in the Old Testament, that Moses was as a shepherd just walking around, and then when he saw a bush that was on fire, but not being burned up, but it was on fire, and he heard the voice of God as he recounted it. He heard the voice of God saying, "Take off your shoes, you're on holy ground." And taking off your dirty shoes of the world when you came into a home or a sacred place, that was typical in the Middle East, and it's typical in Asia. But what does that mean that this is a sacred space? Divine in nature, why? Who said that was divine? Who said it was sacred? Most of us have not had that profound of an experience. Some of us have seen physical phenomena or spirit phenomena that, spirit can really show up in amazing ways that are dramatic and impressive. But what is it that makes a space, we're talking about physical space where we live here on the planet, what creates that space and makes it sacred? Part of my reason for asking this is I think we've lost sight of that. Within, this is my phone. I have two phones near me, two computers near me. This is our world of like what affects me, what's helping me. But as we become more high tech and more comfortable in the world, are we losing sight of the sacred? Are we losing sight of the spiritual presence that could be in this space? And as we become more and more independent, more modern, or more callous, more distracted, we may be losing that sense of the divine, that sense of the sacred. And so then fast forward a couple more years, I was considering where to live outside of California after many years of being cold in San Francisco. Spirit was saying, "Oh, there's a warmer place for you." And so I went alone on a trip to check out New Mexico, and I was going to check out various towns and pueblos. And I read about this one place. I was going to go to Taos, New Mexico, but along the way there was a place called Chimayo, and I was supposed to stop there, and so I was up early, and on vacation I get very excited, and so I'm not a morning person, so I'm usually kind of brain dead. And there I found myself arriving in this very, very rural foothills kind of area at this it's Catholic in faith, but it's an old adobe church in the countryside, pretty alone. And I showed up there like 8:30 in the morning. So early, nobody was around. I hadn't read anything about the place, absolutely nothing. I go in at 8:30, I'm still kind of drowsy, and I walk into this humble little adobe church, and I sit down and I start meditating just for a few minutes. And after just 5 or 10 minutes, I started getting tears in my eyes. I started getting goosebumps all over my arms. And I heard a voice specifically at 8:30 in the morning. I heard a voice specifically say, "This is a church not made with hands." A church not made with hands. And the intense spiritual feeling I had was that this was a place that spirit had initiated. We might call it physical with adobe walls and a Spanish look, but spirit had made this place. Spirit's presence made it sacred. And I later learned Having not known anything when I arrived, I later learned that it was a sanctuary. They called it the sanctuary of Chimayo, not the church. They call it the sanctuary because so many people have been healed there. It has healing energy. And the Spanish knew it when they arrived, and they kind of put a church on top like they were typical of doing. But it's the natural energies there that spirit can utilize in combination. So what makes a place sacred? Well, it kind of depends on who you ask and how you define it, because so many places that are beautiful, energy of nature through the beauty, water, elements, colors, they all have energy unto themselves. And so humans, we naturally are gravitated to places like that. And after our intention and our attention gets fixed on a place, spirit begins to show up more and more. Attention and our intention to be there. And obviously, when spirit begins to show up, when spirit begins to manifest in various ways, to us, we begin to hold those places more and more sacred and special. Now, it used to be in society that we always knew what was the sacred place. The most important place in the community was the temple or the synagogue, the cathedral. You knew it because it was the biggest building around. It was the best building around. Well, now in modern times, the biggest buildings are skyscrapers and sports stadiums. It's shifted for a variety of reasons, but that's kind of where our priorities are now. And so I think it's worth asking, where are we going with our attention and our intention? We might not need a sacred place, a sacred space, but it's a wonderful place when a place is beautiful. It has the elemental and the energetic qualities of beauty and of nature combined in one space with spirit energy. Again, it's our attention and intention that begins to grow that sacred space. And I want to go on to one of the most profound experiences I've had, and that relates to a very special place that was in Guatemala. While living in San Francisco, I was very blessed to have aligned, the way Spirit does these things, a trip to Guatemala for 10 days. And I knew nothing about Guatemala. And there we were in the mountains, volcanic mountains, beautiful, beautiful, up along this huge lake. And we went to this ancient town that is pre-Hispanic or pre-Columbian called Chichicastenango. Chichicastenango. That's a mouthful. And this was a thriving native capital for the Mayans before the Spanish showed up. And the Mayans had several sacred spaces there. And as is typical, the Spanish usually came along and put a church on top of the temple site or whatever. And when we arrived, we got an orientation to kind of know the small city and where to go, what time to eat, etc. But we were very specifically advised, like a soft, gentle warning, that when we went to the church, one church, the central church in the middle of the town, do not walk on the steps going up to the front door. 3 front doors, 1 central front door. Do not walk on these steps going up to the front door that is aligned for the main aisle and the altar, because the natives would get very, very upset. And sure enough, when we went, we were careful to not walk on the steps in the center, and we noticed that no one else was. And we noticed that in that central area, in the middle of the access, the middle of the entrance of the church, were candles and flowers. So beautiful. and no one walking there. But that was creating an energetic line straight into the church, the central aisle, and the altar. Because the altar was a focal point. Now, it might have began with sacrifices thousands of years ago. I've read a lot about that. It might have began as a superstition way back when in most cultures. But again, with attention and intention, when people put their desires and their requests out to Spirit, Spirit shows up. And in this church that has a Catholic veneer, a Catholic motif to it, are areas and reminders that they are talking to Spirit friends. They are talking to Spirit helpers. They are talking to their ancestors. This is not Catholicism. It's not Christianity. It's good old-fashioned spiritualism. And they're showing up to show their respect and their love for Spirit. Great Spirit, yes, they will still say that. Great Spirit, yes, but also to Spirit helpers and friends and family showing up to commune with them. Respect. So I think part of my questioning, part of my appreciation or my interest now in sacred spaces is the respect for these spaces, usually set about with good attention, good intention, yes. But now we modern people, with all of our devices and needs and high-tech solutions, are we revering and honoring the sacred spaces that we can be benefiting from? These energetic places throughout the world, these energetic places are hot spots. Think of the Wi-Fi hotspots. It's an energetic hotspot to commune and connect with Spirit. Now, we know as spiritualists, we don't have to have a place or ritual. No, we don't. But it helps to have a higher vibration. That's why we say prayers. It's why we sing songs. Every religion incorporates sound and song to raise one's vibration, raise the energy field, to make that communion easier and easier. And so how much more so can we do that? That's a question that you might want to sit with. How much more so might we appreciate creating a sacred space in your community, in your church community, in your home? I know a number of times, without people even knowing the extent of my spirituality or my history, they come into my home and they say, it's like they exhale and they say, oh, this feels so good. Your house feels so peaceful. Well, it's not an accident. It's not an accident. It's by attention, intention, and my creation. I'm enjoying to create with color and light and green living things, a positive energy, because I'm living here. I want to enjoy and to benefit from that. And so we all can do that in our homes, in our churches. And to remember that the invitation that we have at home or in sacred spaces, the invitation we have to our spirit helpers or the angels is special. It's respectful. It's sacred because of who they are. They aren't like buddies from down the street. It's great to be friends and hold our spirit people and guides as close confidants. But they're not buddies from down the street. They're this rarefied form of pure, positive, highest energy in the space of God and spirit. And I want to experience the respect for them. Think of how you might respect someone, maybe your favorite singer, favorite politician, or some royalty figure, someone who might show up that you just thought the world of, and they were coming to your house for tea this afternoon. Think of how you would treat them differently and with respect and admiration, and go out of your way to make them comfortable. Spirit deserves that, our spirit guides and teachers. It's so easy to do through color and the vibrations of water and elements and fresh air, green living things. For example, years ago, I used to very consistently, when the office or the church space was unused, or I was getting it ready for doing a reading or spiritual counseling, I would turn the music on for 1, 2, 3 hours, even when I wasn't there. I'd turn the music on, come back in 2 hours. The music lifts the vibration. The colors lift the vibration, but in concert more so with you, the intelligent creator that you are, and with spirit that has been invited, with the spiritual intelligence of spirit showing up by invitation. Because you've shown respect to spirit, and spirit is showing respect to you and the sacred intention to experience the divine in that space. It's my hope and blessing that you will experience more and more of the divine, and that in your homes and other sacred spaces around you, you may see new possibilities and experience new benefits in enjoying the sacred space. Thank you, friends. Namaste.